I came across this story, and I was struck by the way it unfolds, how a simple act of compassion becomes something far more complicated. Let me share it with you, because this is the kind of narrative that asks us what we owe to the creatures who can't speak for themselves. This story begins with a neighbor and a cat left outside in winter. Our narrator, let's call her Neato, lives next door to people who moved in during the summer. They have a cat, and that cat spends its time outdoors. At first, this doesn't seem unusual. Outdoor cats exist. People have different philosophies about pet ownership. Neato notices but doesn't intervene. But then December arrives, and with it, freezing temperatures. The cat is still outside. Neato watches this animal, shivering, crouched against a wall for warmth, drinking from a dirty puddle because there's no clean water available. And she makes a choice. She takes the cat inside. Notice the tension that immediately follows this decision. Neato has just taken someone else's pet. She knows which neighbors own the cat. She'd even asked them about it before, left a note on their door with instructions to text her. They don't know she's their next-door neighbor, which gives her some anonymity, but not much comfort. The questions pile up in her mind. What if they come after me? What if they really love this cat? What if it's microchipped, and the Humane Society calls the owners? This is the weight of doing what you believe is right when it conflicts with what's technically someone else's property. She updates us the next morning. She's texted the owners, told them she has their cat, and then nothing, no response. Radio silence. Meanwhile, something shifts. The cat, this outdoor animal who'd been surviving on puddle water and freezing nights, curls up with Neato on the couch. Her heart melts. She's falling for this creature she's technically stolen. Days pass, still no word from the owners. The cat settles into indoor life. Neato shares a photo, her little buddy, comfortable and safe. The contrast is stark. This is not an animal that prefers outdoor living. This is an animal that was enduring it. In the comments, people offer advice. One suggests a gradual approach: leave food and water outside, let the cat migrate naturally, give it the choice to come in. It's thoughtful advice, rooted in respect for the cat's autonomy and the owner's rights. But Neato had already seen the cat shivering, crouched for warmth, survival mode fully engaged. The neighbor across the way confirmed they'd never seen the cat brought inside. Time was a luxury this animal didn't have. Another commenter captures the frustration perfectly. If you want something to pet without taking care of it, get a pet rock. Don't force a cat to live outside. Children love ice cream, but we don't give them unrestricted access to the freezer for 12 to 24 hours a day. Supervision, responsibility, care. Neato responds with something that cuts to the heart of it. We put special fake sand in boxes for cats to use as bathrooms. They're not smart enough to understand that outside is dangerous. And then we reach the second update. 15 days after she first took the cat in, she texted the owners the morning after rescuing their pet. 5 days of silence followed. Then came Christmas Eve. The cat vomits. This has happened before, but this time there's pink in it. Blood. Neato realizes she needs to take the cat to an emergency vet, and in her stress, she lets it slip. This isn't her cat. This is the moment where compassion collides with consequence. She has to contact the owners, has to ask their permission to treat their cat, promises she'll pay for everything, and finally, they respond. They agree to let her take the cat to the vet. They'll pay for it, but here's what stops you cold. They don't ask to see their cat. They don't rush over. They don't express concern about what might be wrong. The story pauses here, mid-crisis. We don't know yet what the vet finds. We don't know if the cat recovers. We don't know what becomes of the relationship between Neato and these owners. But we know enough to understand the pattern that's emerged. When Neato first texted about taking their cat in from the cold, they didn't respond for 5 days. When their cat needed emergency medical care on Christmas Eve, they agreed to pay, but they didn't ask to be there. The cat has been inside Neato's home for over 2 weeks, warm and fed and cared for, and they haven't asked for it back. These are not the actions of people who view this animal as family. These are the actions of people who view it as property they're not particularly attached to. What strikes me most about this narrative is how it captures the impossible position people find themselves in when they witness neglect. Neato didn't want to steal a cat. She wanted the cat's owners to bring it inside when temperatures dropped below freezing. She wanted them to provide clean water instead of letting it drink from puddles. She wanted them to notice when their pet was suffering. But they didn't. So she stepped in, and in doing so, took on all the risk: legal, social, financial, emotional. She worried about being confronted. She worried about whether they actually loved their cat and she'd misjudged. She worried about microchips and humane societies and consequences. And through all that worry, she paid for emergency veterinary care for an animal that wasn't hers. She opened her home. She let this creature, who'd been enduring outdoor winter alone, curl up on her couch and melt her heart. This is what it looks like when someone's capacity for empathy exceeds their comfort with conflict. The beauty of how this story is told is in what Neato chooses to share and what she doesn't. She never calls the owners names, never rants about their negligence. She simply presents the facts. Below freezing temperatures, a cat drinking from puddles, 5 days of silence, blood and vomit, and owners who agree to pay but don't ask to see their pet. She lets us draw our own conclusions. And we do, because the story she's telling isn't really about whether she had the legal right to take this cat. It's about what we owe to creatures who depend entirely on human kindness for their survival. It's about the gap between ownership and care. It's about the moment when doing nothing becomes its own kind of harm. I don't know how this story ends. The update stops before we learn the vet's diagnosis, before we know if the owners ever reclaim their cat, before we know if Neato gets to keep the little buddy who curled up on her couch and made her heart melt. But I know this. Some stories stay with us, not because they resolve neatly, but because they ask us to sit with the complexity of what's right when the rules and our conscience don't align. This is one of those stories. If you found yourself thinking about what you would have done, if you would have taken the cat in, or left the food outside, or knocked on the owner's door directly, drop a comment. These questions matter. They shape how we move through the world and what we're willing to risk for creatures who can't advocate for themselves. And if this story stayed with you the way it stayed with me, subscribe. Because narratives like this, the ones that honor the messy, complicated reality of trying to do good, are exactly what we explore here. The beauty of this narrative is how it sits with us afterward, making us reconsider what we thought we knew about responsibility, about intervention, about the distance between caring and doing. End title suggestions primary. I stole my neighbor's cat from freezing weather, then it started throwing up blood. Alt 1. They left their cat outside in below freezing temps, so I took it. Now there's blood. Alt 2. I rescued my neighbor's cat from the cold, then the emergency vet got involved. Alt 3. Freezing cat left outside for days, so I stole it and found blood in its vomit.